even last night, I was out with some artists, and it was actually the male artists who were talking about other male artists, how they were not keeping themselves in check. And I was like, oh wow, I thought this was a female thing, but actually no, it's a whole thing where we are judged for our body. And I think it's even harder than for normal people to accept that there's fluctuation and to also not get worried. Because this is something that happened in the past, is that if I would put on weight, I would start to worry about it, restrict way too much, and then get into this yo-yo thing, which was not healthy at all.
Welcome to the Flexi podcast by Lea Toran, dedicated to elite performance, movement longevity, and the science and stories behind extraordinary bodies. I'm Erika Lemay. I'm the founder of Lea Lab and a performance artist myself. Today, my guest is Lea Toran Jenner. She's a Spanish-German circus artist and surreal world champion who began training at just 5 years old and went on to graduate from the École Nationale du Cirque de Montréal. She has performed on some of the world's most prestigious stages, including Cirque du Soleil, Moulin Rouge, and many others. I think that this interview is a masterclass of body awareness, curiosity in the arts world, and the behind the scenes of being a performer and what it takes to make it and what we really struggle with. So let's welcome Lea. Lea, welcome to the Flexi podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Lea, you've been training intensely for over 25 years, I believe.
Yeah, even more than that.
Okay, time is moving. How has your relationship with your body changed over time?
Oh, it has changed so much. I think when I was a kid, I didn't really realize that there was a relationship. It was just like me and my body, we were kind of one, and I could do cool stuff, and that was cool. Then obviously when you go through puberty, everything changes, and everything changes for the good and bad. And you kind of have to readjust. And then during my whole kind of formation, I went to circus school. There was a lot of influence also from the outside. So that was also a more tricky path. We can go into details after. But I feel now, I'm 33 now, I feel the best in my body. I feel I can still do all the things I always could. There's nothing that I'm like, oh, I used to be able to do that, but I can't anymore. I feel really comfortable, and I'm still learning new tricks and working new stuff. And it feels like there is no end. So right now, amazing.
It's beautiful, and that's something I often would like to say to young 20-something. They're so afraid of their 30s and their 40s, and they think that's probably a nightmare. And I'm like, no, you don't know. It feels amazing.
Exactly.
I want you to tell us more your background. Who are you? And so I can have a bit more reference for my further questions.
Of course. So I'm a circus performer. I call myself circus performer because I perform in every type of circus. So from the most traditional to the most modern, to fashion shows, to galas, events. So I really try to create art that is broad so that it can touch everybody and can be also booked by everybody. My main discipline is the sear wheel. It's a big metal ring. I spin in it. For people who don't know circus, I always explain it as if you had a coin and you would like snip the coin on the table and the coin turns. It's kind of that image. It's just a really big coin and me inside the coin. So that's the main thing I do, but I also do some aerial. And I always wanted to be a performer. It was like a dream of mine that I wanted since I was a little kid. And I chose the path over gymnastics. So I started gymnastics when I was 5 till 15. And then switched to aerobic gymnastics, which is a different type of gymnastics. Went to circus school, the Montreal Circus School, and that's kind of where I learned everything I can do now. And from then on, my career started, and I've been working in really cool places for the last 10 years. And yeah, really try to perform as much as I can, but also I'm lucky to be able to select where I'm performing right now. So it has changed from let's do every single show I can to, oh, this is an interesting project. Let's do this one, or this one doesn't sound so interesting. So maybe let's take a break there.
Okay, let's backtrack a second. So, artistic gymnastics, correct?
Yes.
So
originally.
For everyone, that's the acrobatic gymnastics, that the flips and so on in the air. You were tall for artistic gymnastics.
Yeah. Yes, and this is also the moment I stopped. So I was good at artistic gymnastics. I come from a small town and they had a good gym there, which is lucky, because depending where you come from, it also kind of shapes your path. So I was pretty good at it. But there's a moment I grew, my family was away for half a year, and you're just in gymnastics at that age. I was already training 5, 6 times a week by the age of 7, 8 years old, which people consider pretty intense. For me, it was always fun. And now talking to my parents, they were always trying to see, okay, as long as she's having fun, she can do it. The moment she's not liking it anymore, we're going to pull her out. And there was a moment when I was like in my late, like 10, 11, something like that, where I was showing signs of like I didn't really want to go. I was kind of worried. I was getting scared as well because it's kind of dangerous. And then they were like, okay, Lea, maybe let's see if there's something else. And there was something called aerobic gymnastics. So this is a really weird sport because it's really small. Like most people don't know about it. It's kind of a mix of cheerleading and synchronized swimming. So you're mostly in a team. You're jumping really quick. It's on the floor, really dynamic, and you're doing a lot of jumps into like the split position or jumps into the push-up position. You have to be super dynamic. It's like da 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 da. I was really good at that. I like that. And for that, it wasn't that big of a deal to be tall. I was kind of from where I come from, normal size. I'm 1 meter 73. So for an acrobat, I'm really tall. Even now, I'm always the tallest girl in every show. But for then, it was kind of normal.
Huh, and did you like in my head, it's also a sports where you develop a lot of there's a lot of expression. It's very
Yeah.
you have to be very intense with your face.
Yes, yes. You had points for the face.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, and I think the hardest thing was we were a group of teens. I did this really in my teens. And in training, you come to the training and you're like, oh, I have to go train again. And we loved it, but still you have your coach telling you what to do. And then one thing was like she was telling us to smile in the rehearsal. And we were like, no, we don't have to smile in training. Like we can smile at the competition. And very often we would not smile at training, but smile at the competition. And then we noticed that, yes, if you do your training just 80%, because it was part of the training, if you just do it 80%, at the competition, you can add a little bit, but you can't add that much. Whereas in training, if you go full out, 100%, full smile, full everything, full expression, on the competition, it comes natural and you can even add to that. That's something I learned there. And I keep doing that until now, that if I'm training for acts, I'm trying to go full out, even though there's no audience, there's no public, because it's part of what you're rehearsing.
You are the second person I hear saying that. The other one is Dmitry Arnautov,
Oh,
who's
cool.
a legend, Russian legend. And whenever I was training in the same gym when I was a child as him, and whenever he was doing something, it was always with full grace, full expression. It was very intense. And I think for teenagers, it was kind of cringy, weird, or whatever. But who won at the end is him. He was, and also you never know who's looking. If people rehearse and they rehearse a bit with like nonchalance, and then it's someone important is looking. I mean, give it full out all the time. And what does it cost you if that's really your passion and what you want to do? I think it's fabulous that you learned that early and you would not think that you were cringe to do that.
It was cringe. It was cringe. But I gave it a shot.
I am over that, personally speaking, nowadays, completely.
That also comes with age, though. That's one of the other things. The older you get, the more comfortable you get with everything. And these things, they stop being cringe. But when you're 15, yeah, it's a little cringe.
Yeah.
Which is weird, right? It's weird.
I think with age, you understand that no one's looking and no one cares. They care about themselves. So
yeah, true.
Whatever. They will forget in 3 seconds, max.
Yeah, true.
If they don't, there's a problem. Okay. I want to know, what is your greatest quality? What makes Lea, the performer, different in a world where so many seem to be moving towards sameness?
I think it's the joy on stage. I always try to perform from the heart, and I really enjoy being on stage. And it's something I include in my acts. So my acts will always be, even if there is a dramatic aspect, there's always going to be joy, and it's always going to be like actual joy. I can never fake that. It's not possible to fake that. And this is actually the last show I booked, the show we did together at Cirque du Soleil. This is the reason they booked me. They said, we want the act to be like you look when you do see wheel, you look like you're having fun. You look like you're enjoying yourself. And very often, even when I'm training, I put my music on and I'm just like dancing to the music and I'm smiling and I'm just having fun. And this part, I think at the beginning also, I was kind of told, oh no, like you need to be more artistic and you need to play a role. And there were so many layers that we tried to add onto that. And eventually I realized, no, it doesn't have to be at all. You can perform from the heart. And if that's joy, that's what you can convey and people are going to love it. And yes, maybe it's not going to fit every single show, because in some shows, maybe it's a character that doesn't need to be joyful, but then maybe I'm not the right cast for that. So in general, it's really that. It's like performing from the heart and the joy of being on stage. And this is also what I'm always trying to connect to every time I go on stage, even if we're performing 12 shows a week. Right now here at the Moulin Rouge in Paris, there's 12 shows a week, which is a lot of shows. So sometimes, yes, of course, it's harder to connect to that. But if it's something you've been training for a long time, connect to the heart, you connect to why you're actually there and you enjoy it. And then people can see it and they enjoy it as well.
I find it very refreshing in a moment in time, I think, in our field where a lot of performers think that sexiness is what needs to be. I mean, and joyful is very sexy, is very sensual. That's not my point, but like some sort of eroticism, or it's not. We're good if we don't. So that's refreshing. Thank you for that. And we need, as an audience, I think we need that joy. We need to see beauty and forget the wrong feelings, the bad, negative feelings that we go through during the day, some more than others. I want to move into the physical part, like the physical foundations and the construction of a circus body, which can come from different type of construction. I'm constantly thinking about physical broadness versus over specializing. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept in the book range.
Maybe explain it a little bit.
It highlights that many successful innovators across fields, actually, sports, science, arts, they benefited from broad experience before finding their niche, so they did not over-specialize very early on. Roger Federer is an example that he likes to talk about in the book. And that broad exploration has potentially helped them to be better at whatever they'll get into precisely later on. Do you feel that's true in your case?
Actually, yes, because I have that background. I have an acrobatic broad background, and I was always dynamic. I was always flexible. I was always strong, but I would say it was always balanced. Like I am flexible. I have good splits, a little over split, but not like crazy splits. I'm strong. I can do my chin ups and like I am strong, but I don't think I would be strong enough for a bass or for like actual like where you need to be super strong. And same with dynamic. I am dynamic, which is great for wheel, but I'm not like a tumbler that tumbles across like bam, 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 like other people would do. And I think the discipline I picked is also something that needs a little bit of everything, but it doesn't need to be one thing like intensely. Sometimes I envied more in the past because I'm really happy with what I'm doing, but people who are really flexible, because I had the feeling it's something you've been working on a long time in the youth, but it was easier to maintain than other things. But this is probably also in my head. And it's very impressive. Like being flexible in circus, you can add that on any discipline. You put that in the air, you put that on the floor, you put that anywhere, and it's just like right away impressive. Whereas other things of like being really strong, for example, it's harder to portray it. It's harder to show it in skills. So yes, I would say definitely civil. I learned it when I was 19. So until 19, I did gymnastics and other things, and I discovered it in the circus school. And this is where I'm focused on it. And even after circus school, I stopped training a bit, and even now I'm focusing even more. So it's kind of just how you're saying, it's kind of like kind of going this way, where now I'm really focusing on small tricks in the sea wheel that 10 years ago would not have been possible, but it wouldn't be possible without all the base that I've done beforehand.
And you probably adapted also you are adapting every day your
Yeah.
discipline to your own skills.
Yes.
You mentioned flexibility. I want to pick on that. You've been touring with Cirque du Soleil at some point, and you train with Alexei Goloborodko, aka the most flexible man in the world, whom I have also interviewed for Les Malabres last year. He is saying that everybody, Alexei Goloborodko, you look at him and what he does, and it's like out of this world. He's born differently. But he's saying he's not. That this is not genetic. This is the fruit of meticulous training for flexibility, which I'm sure there's a bit of both. Like, I was training very meticulously for flexibility, but I think I did not have the body
at that level
to judge do like a triple fold or something. How was your experience? Because I think you were training often, right? You really dove deep inside, like the technique and everything.
Yeah, so we were on the same show on Cirque du Soleil LUZIA. And on Cirque du Soleil, they have actually a really nice concept that if you are teaching a skill to other people, you need a couple of hours per week, you need a certain level as well, you can get paid to give classes. So he was starting to teach me because I asked him some questions and I was interested. So he was giving me classes. And then they saw that and they were like, hey, Alexei, do you want to be an actual flexibility coach? So he gave like group classes and private classes and he was paid, which was amazing because that way we really had like a schedule. Like we would do 2-3 times a week of intense classes together. So it wasn't just like a tryout, it was like for a long period of time. And I wanted to improve my splits and my back flexibility and also regain a little bit. So let's say my back flexibility, I don't really use it so much in the sea wheel. So I was flexible or more flexible when I was younger and I kind of left it. And then I kind of was like, hey, let's try it again. Let's pick it up again. So I was also improving probably faster than other people would because it was something I had already had in the past. And then we went further. And I think the thing that I loved the most about him was that he was giving me confidence that I could learn these things and that I wouldn't injure myself. Because especially with back flexibility, there's so much around. There's so many people tell you so many things, mostly people that don't know anything. They will just be like, oh, this doesn't look normal, so therefore you have to get injured if you do this, or you are too old, so if you're doing this, you're going to be injured. I heard that from everywhere, and he hears that every single day. So it was really refreshing to talk to somebody who has been mastering his craft, who has been training all his life, who can do crazy things, and who says that he is in no pain and he is healthy and happy. This is what he says. If he is, only he can know, but he has been doing this for such a long time on such a consistent level that I really trust that he's right and that he can do that. So when we were training together, especially on the back, there were moments we were working on strength. There were moments he was pushing me. There were moments like he had tons of different exercises. And even I got some comments online because I was posting stuff online of people being like, that's not good. This is not good. You should do this. But I was following my own body, my own sensations, how I was feeling after the training. I never pushed past pain, and there was no need for that. Like it was really, you could really tell the difference of stretching versus pain. And he gave me that confidence that that's possible to do it and that you can still learn at a later age and that you won't get injured just because you're working on flexibility. So all of that was amazing. And he is such a lovely person and so kind. And everything was always like, how do you feel? How do you feel today? Let's go deeper today if you're feeling good. Let's go less if you're not feeling so well. It was a wonderful experience.
I think from what I understood as well, he has a very deep understanding of his craft. It's funny, I worked with him the first time he was a little child and he had this seriousness. We were on the same show in Korea. And he has something special, and I think often you become very talented. It comes from the head and from the heart. It does not come from being talented, born talented, because, okay, you will start at a higher level, but then you will not improve enough. Do you keep a lot of his teaching in your daily life? Like, do you still work on flexibility a lot, or?
I work less on it now, but I still have all the exercises. So it's kind of the problem is it takes so much time. It's so much time. So you have to, at a certain moment, you have to decide where are you focusing on and what's the things you want to improve on. There are exercises I still do every day, like basic ones, like kind of how I warm up my bridges. And also for the splits, I think he has helped me so much to just have a better position in split. He was really, really focusing on a lot of aerialists or a lot of people from circus, they just push a split. They just sit into split and wait for it to go down, but they're not in a correct position. And he was really making sure be in the right position, even though you're not in a full split. And this is something I've adapted more just in the regular, which I think also long term is going to be healthier and better for me. But in seal wheel, you don't need so much flexibility. You can't, there's not so many tricks you can actually show like great oversplits or great back flexibility. But it's definitely something that's still there. And it's kind of like, I always see it like you have different things that have the focus. So for example, this summer are the World Championships in seal wheel. It's something I have done 2 years ago as a challenge for myself. Mm-hmm. It's really fun because it makes you train differently, but it's nothing that's that important in the sense. Like in my career, I love performing. This is like a challenge, like a fun little thing. And obviously, when I give myself a challenge, I want to do it good. So last time, I had kind of half a year to prepare for it, and I really was training a lot. And I actually ended up winning the competition. So I'm world champion in seal wheel, which is really fun and a nice flex. And I was posting it on social media, and people were following how I was like preparing. And it's every 2 years. So then when this one came like around, people were like, are you participating again? And also a little bit like, well, you just came one time and won. You can't like leave again. You kind of have to like come back at least.
Defend your title.
Defend your title, and also don't leave the community. Like you were there, the people are really nice. It's a really small community from people who do seal wheel who are not performers, who just do this as a hobby and who are really good. In Germany, there's a couple of people who are really strong. Like it's not an easy win. It was not. So this year, for me, it's like, well, I could just do the same thing as last time, but that would be too easy. So I'm working on new tricks that maybe eventually I can also put on stage, or just to push seal wheel to like the limit. Like how far can we go? What are new tricks that can be done on the wheel? So this is something really specific that I'm working on that doesn't require so much flexibility, but it's something that right now I want to do until July. And then after July, another thing that I'm really passionate about that I have not had that much experience with is hair hanging. Is when you tie your hair to a knot and you fly in the air. I've also had a little bit of experience with that. And for that, it's really nice to have flexibility. So I see it kind of as like maintaining my flexibility until the World Championships. Then after, if I can focus on something else, then go deeper into that part. And it's kind of like always depending on what you're focusing on while trying to maintain as much as you can.
Yeah, that makes sense. When it comes to sur wheel, what are the most common injuries?
Either hips or shoulders. So hips, it's because what people don't see with a wheel is that you have to make it spin. It looks like it's spinning by itself, just like an aerial hoop and like, la, la, it's flying. No, you have to push constantly. So to keep it moving, you're pushing with your legs mostly. And so if you have your legs quite high up or if you're pushing really fast, it can create like blockages in the hips. Honestly, I've not had any hip problems, but I know several people who have had operations and always the same operation. So it kind of is like, okay, well, probably that's something that comes from wheel. And the second thing is shoulders, because you have a lot of, if you're transferring your weight to your hands or to your back or to your arms, it's often unstable. So you're going on your hand, but you have to make sure that you're good. And that's moments where I've not seen, but like people dislocated shoulders or just like have tears in shoulders. That's the most parts. But I have to say, I'm knocking on wood, I've been really lucky. I've not had any major injuries. And I can, like, for example, the shoulder, I can sometimes feel it. And then I have my physio exercises that I do to stabilize and make sure like we're good.
A lot of proprioception.
Yeah.
Within your sports and like with all of your physical background, is there something you've been doing, either it was your choice or you were in a show or you needed to do something that really felt unnatural for your body type?
Oh, you mean like in terms of movement or in terms of like?
or discipline or?
I mean, in my training, there has been kind of a lot of touching things because I went to a circus school. And I think the thing that I like least is climbing. Like anything, climbing a rope, climbing a tissue, any of those. Although I am quite strong and I can do pull-ups, I always had the feeling that pull-ups is one of the things that does not come natural at all. Like if I was preparing for the National Circus School's entrance exams, that's one of the requirements. And everything was improving so fast, like push-ups and jumps and pull-ups was always like, oh, so yeah, just not natural. But I was never pushed to do it. So, like there was never an actual need because I do perform also aerial. I have a big chandelier, but it's more visual. It's not, I don't have to be like crazy dynamic or like climb up.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, actually, if I like on the top of my head, I don't remember anything that I was forced to do that doesn't come natural to me.
Lucky you.
Actually, it was more the other way around, if I think about it, because I was always really interested in handstands. I actually applied in circus school for handstands, and it came from I love doing it. I had a good feeling in it, and also I could train it alone because I did my youth in gymnastics, but wanted to be an artist. And there was a switch that wasn't known. Like I didn't know how to go to school. I didn't actually know that there were circus schools. So there was a moment where I was just training by myself until eventually I found out that there are circus schools and I applied for school. So what I could do at that time was juggling, because that's what like a kid wants to learn circus, and your parents are like, here's 3 juggling balls, teach yourself juggling. But I knew I didn't want to do that. And handstands. And when I was auditioning at the circus school, there were quite a lot of people who wanted to do handstands, and they didn't take me for handstands. And later on, I found out that they didn't take me for handstands because my body wasn't the right type for that, which at that time I was kind of like, I'm not really sure what that's supposed to mean. It basically means that you're holding more weight down in the legs and in the hips so that it's harder to learn like the crazy one flag tricks. And actually now I'm really happy that they did that, because I think it would have been hard for me to learn handstands. I would have loved it, and I would have probably created something nice, and like it would have been good. But C-wheel fits me so much better from proportions and from like what I can do, what my natural talent is probably.
You would also have needed to spend so many hours every day in training.
I know. I mean, you went there, and you also went there later, right? You didn't start with that. You were like, I'm doing aerial and then I'm doing handstand. If I remember
in a way,
correctly.
I started as an aerialist when I was 11, just because my body was supposedly made to be an aerialist,
Okay.
and also I was a good flyer because I was very light. And I was interested in handstand, and around 15 years old, I was so from 15 to 20, I was full-time to 23 actually, a hand-to-hand flyer. So where you need to have a good base in handstand, but my ultimate goal was really handstand. And yeah, I have different challenges when it comes to my body for handstand. And for me, it's like the extension in the elbows, for example. Like I have overextension in my legs, but my elbows, for some reason, they're really stuck. So the balance is different, which is, I think, out of this restriction. I made it a strength because I started something much more dancing on my hands instead of being super static. And also I found it boring, honestly, like to just stay there and then prepare to show the movement and then lift the other hand. That didn't do it for me. And even I went to study in China hand balancing, and I could easily hold 1 minute on each hand, but I never wanted to put it in my acts because I found it boring to do the transition and then do the ta-da moment. So I ended up not putting it in my acts, which is interesting.
It's interesting. I love it because
But yeah, it
it's so
takes your
hard.
whole, it
It
takes
takes
everything.
there's
It
so
takes your whole
much.
time.
Exactly.
For 15 years, I've been training 8 hours per day just to be able to
Yeah.
be able to do that.
Yeah, it was the right choice. C-wheel is my discipline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it fits you better.
Yeah.
And also, I think you're very curious. Okay, I know you a little bit personally as well, and you're very curious, and you have a personality that will always want to know more and try new things, and you can evolve because you have this space I think.
Yeah.
That's much more interesting. How much do you train and what does recovery look like?
So right now I train about 2 to 3 hours per day, mostly actually really specific steer wheel. So there'll be like maybe half an hour of warming up, and then it will be warming up with the wheel. Then it will be cardio with a wheel, because I have these routines I have to prepare. And they're kind of like, one of them, for example, is you have to do 10 moves back to back without leaving the wheel, which is actually really cardio, really hard. Although the moves itself, they're not so hard. It's just hard because I'm spinning for 2.5 minutes nonstop. So it's kind of like a little hit workout. Doesn't go that intense, but so I usually do that as like a third warm up. And then after that, I do specific trainings, which is really just tricks. And on top of that, right now I'm performing 3 days a week. So I'm performing 3 shows a week. Usually it's just one show. So that's kind of lower intensity to what I usually do, because usually it's more shows. So I have more time for training. This is kind of, so like, for example, now after our call, I'm going to go in and train my 2 to 3 hours. Then I have a rest. And then I go back where I do just a specific warm up, the act, and probably after it's kind of like playtime. So maybe there's going to be some extra training, but there's no demand of like a certain level or certain intensity or certain repetition number. And I try to do that like at least 3 times a week, because I'm working 3 times a week. And then over the weekend, it kind of depends on, for example, now really specific, in 2 weeks, I have a competition, my first competition of this year. So now I will just have one rest day per week. Other than that, maybe like 2 rest days, kind of depending. And this is kind of a nice flow where I feel like I have enough time to ease into it. There's not a lot of pressure. The act I'm performing is a different one than the one I'm training, which is something I've done for a long time. So it's kind of, that's really automatic in the sense of like the body really knows what to do. And the training is more specific and more different each day.
And what about recovery? Do you need to really spend so much time, or I think you're a bit free floating on that one.
Yes,
Having worked with you.
exactly. I was a little worried when you like for this podcast that you would ask me for like, I don't do so many things. I actually also think I'm really lucky. I'm also one of the rare people, and I'm gonna knock on wood too, that I've never had a serious injury. Like it has always just been small things. And talking to people, everybody's like, eventually it's gonna happen. I'm like, no, maybe it's not gonna happen. Maybe it doesn't have to happen. It's maybe just like how genetics are, how my body is, also the type I'm training. I'm not going into too many extremes. So I think this is kind of a comfort zone. So recovery mostly is just sleep, which is something I'm, as you said, I'm really curious. I do a lot of things. Sometimes I'm lacking a bit of sleep. And when I notice, okay, I'm starting to lack sleep, then that's the main priority. That's the main, like okay, no, you need sleep now, like take the times, and then I will know it after a couple of days of like not putting an alarm, just like I'm going to bed, I wake up whenever. And that can sometimes be 10 hours, 11 hours, which is a lot. But every time that kind of happens, I'm like, okay, I needed this. I feel way better. I feel more rested. So I think that's the main one. And the other one is if I feel that something's off, to just not push. There's no need. Like if I go to training and it doesn't do that day, that's fine. And then just take it easy, go for a walk. That's the main two
But I
recoveries.
think that's the most push type of recovery because it's body awareness. And I also
Yeah.
believe that okay, accidents happen, first of all. But in terms of injuries, if you have the personality not to want to push yourself at every cost, you already save yourself quite a lot of problems. And that's also your career choices that you make
Yeah.
because you have this awareness and you make choices and you have a life and you don't give it all in one part of. I'm extreme. I will get injured. Yeah, it's just to me, some people deserve their non-injury. They just have been smarter than the rest of us. But and as you said, there are things that create 90% of the injuries. When I stopped hand balancing, contortion, and all of that, actually, when I had an accident, I started to feel what it feels like not having pain. Because my whole life I had been in pain because I was pushing my body to extremes, and I didn't have enough time for recovery within my training regimen. So the first time I actually lived without pain, I'm like, oh, people live like that. How fun. It was just
Wow.
and now also I can do pretty much everything. Of course, not the hand balancing because I left that behind. I chose not to take the time in my schedule to do that. I made professional choices, but it's really one thing that was injuring me mostly 90% of my injuries. So you're
Wow.
totally right. You're just smart. You don't need to get injured.
No.
Good. Let's talk about a bit of a touring life and the stress that comes with it. I think that touring can be very taxing on the body and psychologically speaking as well. What would you say are the hidden physical challenges of touring physical artists?
I think the biggest one is the long traveling. Like every time you're in a long train or flight, like I can feel my hips like getting tighter. Like the day after a long travel day, the training is not the same. It always feels kind of you're more stuck. It took me time to realize that it was linked because at the beginning I was like, what's happening today? And then, oh yeah, yesterday I was sitting all day. Yeah, obviously you're sitting all day. It's not necessarily good. So I think that's the biggest one. The second one is that you're always changing everything. You don't have time for routines. Actually, like what I was saying earlier, that I'm training so much now is because I have a setting where I can do so. I live in Paris. I have this beautiful apartment that is given to me by the Moulin Rouge in Paris, where I'm performing and where I can also train. A lot of places don't have that possibility. If you're working for a bigger company like Cirque du Soleil, you will also have like a training space. But I think that's the only two places where I actually had a place where you can train. Other than that, sometimes you can come in earlier, you have an hour on stage or half an hour, but mostly you don't. So you have to kind of figure out your way of training and warming up around that. And if you've been doing that for a long time, I feel that that's not good on the long run. Like everything kind of declines. On top of that, depending on personality, I am very social, so I would go out after shows. Like let's say there's like you do your training in the day, you have your show, you go out at night. Depending who you're around, that can be pushed later and later. And I think on my very first tour, I was touring with Cirque Éloize on Circopolis. I was really young. It was like first time Lea's making money and I'm all around the world. I think after a year of that, I realized, okay, this is not sustainable. This doesn't make sense. Like I don't have enough time to train. I'm not getting better. I'm kind of maintaining, but it's hard to maintain, constantly tired. And I'm having fun. It was a great time, but it was kind of just if you're thinking maintainingly tricky. Now I've kind of switched to not going out so much, also choosing more where I'm working. So let's say, for example, being here, I know that this is a place I can also train and improve. So something that on my list of like, do I want to work here? Do I don't want to work here? Will maybe have a higher check. And also giving myself times between touring where I'm just in one place, where I have the possibility to train or to not train, but at least to kind of reset in between. Because yes, if you're constantly touring, there is no routine, there's no reset, and you're just kind of following along.
Another thing that I find that nobody talks about, and we kind of all know about it, but we pretend it does not exist, is we're women. Hello.
Yeah,
So
true.
we often have to perform in a little white leotard in front of everybody all the time, and like your body's changing sometimes, depending of the way you're made. But there's a monthly situation that makes things a bit complicated. It's stressful, and you might be bloated and need to fit in the unitard that day, and so on. I mean, can we talk about it a little bit?
Of course. Of course.
What happens? Like, how do you deal with that? How do women hide it? I just want to do a little pre-disclaimer. When I was 15, I was working in a company, and we were having before every tour a physical check. And in the physical check, there was a different part of it. The doctor, I was physio and so on, but the doctor had advised me to take the uninterrupted pill so I would never get my period. I'm like, we were somewhere else at the
What?
time. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's intense because that's actually talking about it without talking about it well, but at least it's there. Because I feel in my whole youth, it was kind of not there. Like you have to deal with it by yourself. You have your friends. I was always on a gymnastic teams with other girls, so it was a topic, but it was never like, oh, I'm competing, but I'm on my period, so maybe it's gonna affect that. But that was never an issue. And even after that in circus school performing, it was kind of always you left alone. Like you deal with it, you're supposed to be able to perform on the same level. It doesn't matter where
Toughen
you are
up.
in the month, just like toughen up, exactly. And I was brought up like that as well. I think it's been more in my recent years and actually also a lot of social media because I get a lot of questions. I have young women following me on social media and I always let them ask me questions, whatever they want to ask. And this is a question that comes up a lot. It's like, what do you do when you're on your period? And usually I'm like at the beginning, I was just like, well, you just toughen up, you just do it. If you have like enormous cramps, maybe you'll take like a painkiller, but that's just in extreme situations. Other than that, I mean, you just do as if it wasn't there. But then later I was more thinking about, yes, there are people who have more intense situations also. And there's also the whole aspect of like what you said, like a little white costume. I have a white costume here and it's horrible. Like it's not fun. And then I've like for example, I have a brand deal with like period underwear. And I was like, oh, interesting. I've never thought about this. So there are ways of having like different protections or like double protection where I'm like, oh, exactly. If I put period underwear on top of a tampon, for example, then you at least you were like you're not as worried. But I've had moments on stage where I was like, oh my God, like is it happening
Yeah.
now? And then I have all these people, and I think every female performer has had that. And usually it's not the case, but it's yeah, it's a big topic. And I think what I do now, the only difference I do now is that I at least acknowledge it. Before it was like it's not there, elephant in the room, and nobody talks about it. Now, if I'm on my first day of my period, or even if I'm not having a good day, sometimes I'm also just gonna be like, well, maybe let's just track back where you are. Maybe it's just not a good day today. Then take it easy. And then obviously I'm still gonna perform, but maybe I'm gonna stop all the training all around it and also, I mean, to what your doctor used to say, like I'm all for like natural and listening to your body and maybe trying to check to see where you are to maybe be able to also use it as your superpower if you're in different parts of the months. That it's not just like, oh, I'm in my period and now it's like everything is not as good, but if you're exactly on the opposite, maybe it's like a time where you can, hey, like I'm having a great time. Maybe this is the moment where I can push and I have better energy. And also kind of seeing while you're training, it's not going to go like this. If your cycle is not like this, like obviously there's going to be that in everything.
Exactly. I think that to use your hormonal cycle as a superpower, I don't like the victim
Yes.
mentality at all, like of course, but there may be tricks to make sure that you don't end up being a victim of yourself because you've been stupid and not like pushing through something that doesn't make any sense, or yeah, or not double
Yeah.
protecting yourself.
Yeah, that. I mean, oh,
Yeah,
horrible.
yeah. I opened with the relationship with your body. I would like to talk a little bit about that because you mentioned that there were some moments in probably circus school or younger that it got a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's two things. First of all, I am tall. So if you're taller, you're also heavier. And there was a moment where we were weight. Like this was in sports. In circus school, not. In circus school was different, but in sports we were weight. And so we were weight once per week. And there just the fact of that, just tracking, just having other people tracking your weight on a random Tuesday evening and like adding that into some kind of table and then like figuring out if that's good or bad, or if that kind of has affected your training. You've not been so good in training, but then your weight has gone up. Also, not checking any other factors, it's just weight, which is an indicator for some things, but not for all of these things, especially like what we just said, like you're going through hormonal changes. Obviously, your training is going to change. So that was a time where I started having a little bit of a, if I'm lighter, I'm better kind of in my mind. And I knew I was going to be weighed on a Tuesday. So it's like Tuesday you don't eat because then you wait and you're lighter. But then Wednesday you can eat as much as you want, and Thursday as well. And then Friday you start eating less. So it kind of was kind of really weird cycle of when to eat, when not to eat. And after a while, it just became way too much in my mind. Like the thing that they say, like if you have the first symptoms of having an eating disorder is when you're thinking about food constantly. And it's just the thinking of like, have I eaten? Will I eat? What have I not eaten? Am I allowed to eat this? Have I eaten? And it was kind of creeping in. And it started at that time. And then when I went to circus school, it intensified, but not because from the outside, it was more from the inside. It was more because all the girls were tiny. All the girls were like tiny little flyers, and my body type is stronger. I was never like big, but there were moments also when you're training so much that like I did put on some weight, but it was also muscle just because it's the intensity was so intense. So like training a lot, eating a lot, but you need that. And that was, yeah, that was kind of a thing where I would say it was very unhealthy, but I just crossed the line. And it was when I started performing that I had the freedom of actually being seen as a performer and what I portray on stage. And it wasn't about the body anymore. It wasn't about how many chin-ups can I do, because also it was linked. Let's say like you're having all these evaluations and then your chin-ups are not so good. So you're starting to think, oh yeah, my chin-ups are not so good because I'm 2 kilos heavier. But if I was 2 kilos lighter, I could do more. So you're kind of like having weird conversations with yourself. And the moment it stopped being a thing of how many chin-ups can I do and how much weight was on that scale, it was about me performing, then my whole relationship with food became healthier again. And I went through a phase where I was just like, I don't care what I'm weighing. I did put a bit of weight on, and then naturally I lost it. And then since then, it has always been an intuition. If I'm hungry, I eat. If I don't, I don't. I don't restrict anything. And my weight fluctuates and I notice it, and that's okay. Like if I'm a little heavier, I'm a little heavier. That's fine. And then if I'm a little lighter, I'm a little lighter. And I see now that that's completely normal. It's completely natural. Yes, obviously you have to make sure to be healthy and to get your protein and your macros and whatever you want to make sure that you're good and healthy. But I also think the body tells you so much more that you think. You just have to listen to it.
That's especially normal if we have like life changes a lot. Sometimes you're touring, you're performing every day, sometimes you're not training. And for athletes who train on either yearly cycle or 4-year cycle for the Olympics, that's totally normal. You grow and then you this and we are supposed to stay. It wouldn't be normal to stay just exactly the same. So it's good that you have the maturity to understand and take that and not try to fight against it.
But it's also, once again, the discipline. I think I'm lucky where like I have a stage partner and I perform in duo, but it's not that my weight will not affect that too much. Like it doesn't change for him if I put on 3, 4 kilos. Whereas in other disciplines, it is a big difference. And also, it is at the end of the day or a type of work where you're on stage where people look at you, where people maybe see something in you that you don't see. And it's a topic. Like even last night, I was out with some artists, and it was actually the male artists who were talking about other male artists, how they were not keeping themselves in check. And I was like, oh wow, I thought this was a female thing, but actually no, it's a whole thing where we are judged for our body. And I think it's even harder than for normal people to accept that there's fluctuation and to also not get worried. Because this is something that happened in the past, is that if I would put on weight, I would start to worry about it, restrict way too much, and then get into this yo-yo thing, which was not healthy at all. Whereas now with a bit more time and more experience, mostly, I'm like, okay, I put on a bit of weight, but that's fine. It's because of this. It will naturally go away because of this. But that takes so much time to also trust yourself that it will be okay.
Yeah, and of course, when you reach a certain age, that you're not 20, because obviously between 15 and 20, you're changing all the time. So if you put up 2 kilograms, you're probably afraid that this is just going to go out of control. Then there's going to be like 10 more in the next.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one more good thing that comes with age, performers, dear
True.
20 years old performers. Is there another struggle, psychologically speaking, that you could point out that for circus artists that you would think of?
Yeah, I think the comparison is a really big one. I think also gets better with age. I think the mix of comparison and social media is something that I noticed I struggled with for a while until I noticed it, and then it became so much better. It's this thing of when people learn new tricks, they will post their new trick, but they will not post their thousands of times of trying and failing.
The 6 years before.
The 6 years before, exactly. But even shorter, even like let's say you have a training session, you're filming your own session, you're gonna show the best trick of the session on social media. And what people are gonna see is that, and they think this is your normal. This is like you can do it. But actually you could just do it one time in that session, or maybe in the whole year. And I noticed that that was affecting me because I was comparing how fast I was advancing to how fast other people were advancing, which was completely silly because, first of all, we're all on our own timeline. Also, it does really not matter if at all, because I'm not booked because I can do this one trick. I'm booked for my whole act and my quality on stage and my personality
Your
and what I'm
personality
portraying.
on stage, a quality of movement, much less skills than people think.
Exactly. So if you're starting to compare yourself because somebody can do this trick that you always wanted to learn and they learn it so much faster than you, that just gets into your mind for completely stupid reasons, will just block you and is not beneficial at all. So one thing I changed in my posting is that I stopped just posting the good trick. I will still post the good trick, but I will also post how long it took me to get there, or me laughing at myself because something didn't work. It's something that I kind of do for myself, but I also do for other people because I know that everybody is in this kind of cycle. And already that has shifted my vision of what all of that is. And then the second thing is realizing that it really does not matter. Like somebody doing one trick, it's, yeah, just like you said, that's not a reason why you're booked. That's not a reason to be better or worse. Anyways, in arts, everybody is different. People will select your cast for different reason. But it's a thing I notice, and I think for if people are stuck in that, if they spend a lot of time on social media and compare themselves to other people, what they can do, or I'm sure people will compare themselves to me in my skill level. But I always tell them, well, I've done Wheel for like nearly 15 years now. Like obviously there are skills that take a lot of time, and that's a good thing because if they would take so much time, everybody would do them. So it's good if it's hard. Get inspired, but don't compare your 2 years to my 15, or just don't compare at all because it doesn't help. It's not beneficial at
Yeah,
all.
but this it's a culture of instant things instantly. And also, I think that social media is creating a lot of injuries and very bad injuries. I've never seen, back in the days, I don't want to say nobody had a fall, especially in aerial work. When you work aerially, you were formed not to do whatever. You would not just work. And now it seems like people are falling, and that's scary. That's terrible, but that's also scaring clients because they hire people, semi-professional, who don't have what it takes and also the formation in terms of knowledge of rigging and so on. And then accidents happen. And I
And do you
think a little bit, I see a lot of them actually on Instagram, and it scares me because it's taboo as well. Back in the days, you would fall, you would be ashamed of it because you made a mistake, or it's like it was a rare thing. You don't just train at circus school and once in a while you fall on your head. That's a no-go. Nobody falls. Like we should not work in the air and once in a while we fall. I think we need to get back like way more on the other side now. And that's probably the same thing that leads to also comparing skills.
Yeah, but do you think it's been normalized? Like you think the problem is that people show their falls, it's part of their training, it's part of whatever happens,
Also,
and then
it's a
people
trend.
normalize it.
It's a
Okay.
trend, and that should not be a trend. It's
No.
not you did this trend about I learned to. No, 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 no. Like a fall is very serious. This could have cost you your life. Let's take it to that. This is not funny to get likes. It's for me, it's a big, big, big
Yeah.
no-go. I will not use accidents to get likes. We
Yeah.
should not. We should be better than that. But that's another subject. Um, I see you as a bit of a fearless person. Is there anything you're afraid of? It doesn't need to be like in performing live, but also in life or
I mean, yes and no. I have big goals. I always kind of put goals really high. And obviously there's moments where I'm kind of like, Lea, are you crazy? Like how would that happen? Like it isn't aren't you reaching a little too far? So that's kind of moments, but they're just moments because then I see it, what I've done and what I've accomplished. And also you put things into perspective and you realize, well, why not? Why not go for big dreams? Because that's the only way you can achieve them. You have to believe that you can, otherwise it doesn't. So there are moments, yes, but I think that's very natural that you have a big dream, you're super excited, you're going for it, and then there's moments of doubt when you're in bed at night and you're just like, what? Like, well,
but is it a
why am I
fear?
doing
Is
this?
it what if it doesn't happen? Is that
No.
scary? Yeah, right,
No,
there
it's
you
not
go.
scary.
There you go. You're trying to avoid a question. What are you afraid of?
Yeah, you're right. What am I afraid of? It's a great question. Okay, let's go deeper. I am afraid of creating a life that I create for myself, but I don't attract enough people around me to be part of it. So I am very social and I really crave connection and I really need people. And I also see myself of what I'm doing and the moves I'm making, that I'm not creating something where people can actually follow me. So this is a partnership, like a relationship, but also friendship. So I have close friends that I see a couple of times per year. I make an effort to see, they make an effort to see me, but I don't have my circle. I go, hey, let's make a barbecue tonight. It's my birthday. I'm gonna celebrate with my closest friends. Like that's never gonna happen because they're everywhere. And it's been on my priority list for a while, where I'm like, okay, Lea, you need to settle down, you need to find a place, a base, and around there you can create a circle, a community thing. And I constantly make the choice of not doing that because that's the hard thing to do. I choose moving forward and jumping into new projects, which comes easier to me. And I think deep down, a fear is that if I don't make space for that, that will never happen. And that the other path eventually is going to lead to like a lonely path.
Mhm. And where are you in the best case scenario in 20 years?
In the best case scenario in 20 years, I've found my place, my base in a city, and I have my own show there, which is a show that will be 2 months per year. Springtime, summertime would be my favorite because all the other shows are in Christmas and no more Christmas shows needed. Maybe a little bit touring. And for the rest of the year, it's preparing for that, making it a really cool thing every year, but also having time and freedom to do whatever else I want. This can be performing for other shows. This can be just taking time off. This could be starting a family. This could be being with my friends, continuing what I'm doing on social media and being a voice for circus and performance in Germany and maybe also in the world, showing that circus can do way more than one things right now, connecting to other art forms, being a face for that, and creating place and time to still have time to train and play and enjoy and push the wheel to the maximum.
Anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
This was lovely. We should do this more often.
I agree.
Yes. No.
Good. Well, you're very present on the internet, so we will link everything. How to find you. Maybe there's like one favorite place that you like people to connect with you.
think my main one would be Instagram. I have two different channels, one in German language and one international. The international is Lea Toran Jenner, my whole name. And the German one is Circus Lea with a Z and a K, the German way of writing circus, Circus Lea. That's the two main. And I also answer to DMs. I actually make a big point of, a lot of people ask me lots of questions. I really try to answer everybody. So that's the best. But there's also TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and your social media of choice. I'll be there.
Lea, thank you so much for your time. We'll link everything. And yeah, thank you. That was a beautiful chat.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is really fun.